Yeah, this is Rena. How are y'all doing today? Personally, I'm good as I am inside. It is 11:30 in the morning, midday, and it's already 34 degrees outside. Apparently, it's going up to 36 today. Quite something. But hey, I'm inside and I have aircon, so AC. One of those things. In Japan, we all say aircon. And I'm sure that English-speaking people will understand. But I guess in English we say AC, right? Easy to forget. Anyway, so I spoke to my coworker about doing this. And I was like, hey, give me some ideas, because I don't know. Because to me, everything is like, normal at this point. And he gave me some ideas. So here we go. I don't know how long I will try to, like how long I will aim to get these, make these. But as I'm pretty sure I said in the first one, I am horribly lazy and I don't want to do editing. So I'm just gonna, talk and do the thing and then see how it goes. But I'm hoping maybe I will manage to keep these to around 30 minutes or something. And if you keep listening, thank you. Anyway, so one of the things my coworker asked me, suggested to me, was to talk about how it is being a foreigner in Japan. And yeah, because obviously everyone is different and everyone has different experiences. There will be a million different stories about this, right? So obviously I can only speak for me and my experiences, and maybe mention how some of my friends have been treated and stuff. But yeah, here we go. So first things first, I believe I mentioned this, but I'm from Sweden, and I'm white, from Sweden, and I'm always mistaken to be American, obviously. American or English or, British or Australia. I have gotten Netherlands for some reason. And in a dark setting, I've gotten Taiwan, which is even more weird. But in general, obviously, all white people all look the same. So generally I get, hey, American, which is not the case. And for the most part, when I say Sweden, they're like, oh, like, Scandinavian, what's it called? Like, not necessarily fashion, but like, architecture and stuff is very popular. And like, design and stuff is very popular. So a lot of people are like, oh, I love Sweden. It's like, yeah, I've heard it's very popular. Yeah. So it's kind of like that. But aside from that, I haven't had that many problems. I mean, yeah, like I'm privileged, I guess, in that way. Because in general, people don't give me the stinky eye or anything. But I have gotten it. But rather than racism, it was because I was walking in Shinjuku just one midday, and this lady came by me, and she was like, she probably had some issues. She gave me a stink eye and just like went like tebu, which basically is like fatty. I'm like, okay, thank you. Yeah, that was weird. But in general, I don't have that many bad personal interactions necessarily. Like I said, they do happen, and I do get the like, foreigner look, especially when going to like, I don't know, restaurants. Just the other day, me and my friend were going to meet these Japanese people at a restaurant, and we got in, and the woman, it was a small restaurant, and the woman came in and she just like stared at us with like these wide open eyes, and just like took up her hands and shook her head like, wow, no. And I told her in Japanese, we are meeting someone here. It's just like, no, 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 no. It's like, oh, come on. That is one of the things that probably, it's very frustrating. When you go somewhere, they look horrified, probably because they don't know English, they don't know how to, interact or whatever. But then you speak Japanese to them, and they still don't listen. It's not okay. I know it's not okay, but I also understand why it happens. It's like, they see a foreigner, visibly foreigner, and they just blank out. I am assuming they just go, help, the alarms go off, and they don't really think nor listen. So, which is, it's really not good. It's not proper, but you also kind of understand. It's like, it's, you have not been exposed to foreigners. I get it, Maybe foreigners you've been exposed to don't speak English, don't speak Japanese. I get it, But it's kind of tiring, especially when you do speak Japanese to them, and they still just like, oh, no, speak English. It's like, oh, come on, but do you listen to me, please? Stuff like that is very frustrating. But aside from that, I have generally been treated very, very well in terms of, being a foreigner. Something that has... One thing that is difficult is finding an apartment and move and stuff. If you live with a Japanese person or someone who is, has a, what's it called? Permanent residency, like essentially green card, right? It might be easier. But as a single Swedish person living in Japan, in Tokyo, like in Tokyo too, right? Like the city where everyone is. Sometimes it has been pretty hard. In the apartment I have right now, which is a very good one, I have had no problems with this landlord. Before I found this place, I went to look at other places, and I found this one apartment that I really liked. It had a really nice layout, a nice balcony and stuff. And the real estate agent, I guess, like they had no issues. And then they called the landlord, and they're like, yes, we have a foreign national here who is interested in this apartment, and they have a stable job. They are Swedish, and a Swedish passport is a pretty good one to have. Swedes have it has a good image, I guess. I don't know. But apparently that landlord for that apartment was like, no. We had, like in the past, apparently, I think it was Vietnamese or Thai, some East Asian, Southeast Asian person had lived there. They had problems, so they don't take any foreigners ever again. And, it's stuff like that really is just like, fuck, seriously though, man? Just because one foreigner messes up something doesn't mean that the rest of us will, And yeah, it's things like that are very frustrating. And again, I know it's not everyone. Like I said, the place where I live right now is great, and probably even better than the place I wanted to go for first. I have a balcony here too. It's on the 6th floor. It's really nice. But yeah, it's when it happens, it's just like, oh my God, can you stop being so... God. Yeah, I don't even know if it's xenophobic. I don't know. Like racist. Like, can you stop being so... Stuff like that is horribly frustrating. But aside from that, like in general, the most problems I've had has been because when I've looked for apartments. And I don't know, maybe that says something about all the landlords, right? I don't know. But yeah, aside from that, it's just like the small inconveniences and stuff. Like you have a middle name or two, and everything is kind of like, complicated because of it and stuff like that. Yeah. So in terms of problems, that's fine. Like, yeah. If I lived in Sweden, I'm sure there will still be people giving me the stink eye when I went outside. Like, so that's just I don't know, human condition. I don't know. It's part of the human experience, I guess. Yeah. Yeah, I know there are a lot of people, especially like people on platforms and stuff. They'll be like, "Hey, I have this racist experience," and that's horrible. And like I've heard friends talk about stuff too, and they're just like, "Oh, it's very sad." And I've been lucky because I don't have that. I haven't had as much of it as some people. And maybe it's just the people that it's the people I have around me in my surroundings that aren't good, I guess. But the general feeling I get is that people are getting more accustomed to foreigners. But then again, the moment you go to the countryside, it's only back to the 1960s or whatever, right? So it also depends on where you live, and I'm sure living in Tokyo and living in Osaka is different, and that's two big cities, right? So yeah, everyone has their own unique experience and stuff. But personally, I have not had that many super bad experiences. I haven't had a bad experience to the point of I don't know, like I don't want to live here anymore, yeah. But yeah, aside from having bad experiences, you do get the ambulance. You do get the expectations that come with you being a foreigner as well, which also are not fair. Like, I look Americans. Obviously, my native language is English. No, it's not. I do not know everything about learning English or Japanese. I do not. Sorry. I'm a foreigner, so obviously I'm super rich. I'm a foreigner and I live in Japan, so obviously I'm rich. No, not necessarily. Just because I make a living and manage to live it doesn't mean I'm rich. Like all of those things is like this. I don't know what it was like because I didn't live here, but I have this image of that in the early 90s, maybe 80s, 90s. All these, English teachers came for like whatever company, and they were paid super well. So people have this impression that all the white or like foreigners in general managing to make a living for a longer time in Japan are very well off. It's just not always the case. Obviously, sometimes it is, but not always. Hey, we're all unique. Just like not every Japanese person is super rich either. Yeah, it's it's those things that are kind of not. I don't get offended, and I don't think it's necessarily bad, but it's just like, here we go again. Yeah, and honestly, I think it's just in general too little exposure for like most Japanese people. Like if you live just like 2 hours outside of Tokyo, and you don't really leave your city, because most, like, even if it's not on super rural area, if you have if you have most of the things in the place where you live, you don't really need to go anywhere else. You'll have your community, you have your friends, you have your school, you have the shopping center, you have everything, right? So you don't really go outside of it, and then you suddenly meet this foreigner, right? And they tell you that they've moved to Japan, and you don't get that every day, right? So I get that it's just lack of exposure, and because Japan was so isolated, I guess, for so long, they just haven't had the opportunity to get interact more with foreigners, I guess. I don't know. But again, I feel like that's changing, because like it depends again about who you talk to. But teens, for example, don't seem to be as shocked when seeing a foreigner anymore, as they were like 10 years ago, if you ask me. Then again, I live in Tokyo, so like if you go to like, I don't know, Omiya in Saitama, which is not that far away, maybe they will have a different opinion and different reaction. But yeah, it is getting better. Yeah, it's an interesting experience, to say the least. It's very it's a unique experience, I guess. But also, to me, it's everything I know. Like, obviously, when I lived in Sweden, I was at home. But I left Sweden when I was 23. And I never worked in Sweden. I was only ever a student. And then I've lived in Japan. I've also lived 2 years as a student in America, in Los Angeles. So I really only know the foreign experience, being a foreigner experience. So like, yeah, I don't know what if anything, it's kind of hard for me to imagine what it would be like to live in Sweden, where everything is like just like normal. Everyone is the same. Like, what the hell? Like, you know? Yeah, to me that's to me that sounds kind of, not scary, but it's just strange because I haven't done it, right? Yeah, and it's kind of not related to being like a foreigner necessarily, but like that is something that not every year, but whenever I do go back to Sweden, I always feel out of place. And that has less to do with me living abroad and more to do with me just the way I function, right? But I feel like a foreigner in Sweden, and that is strange. Yeah, it's always funny. Like these past few years, I've been able to go back like once a year, and at one point there was like 5 years that I didn't go back, but lately I've been I think once a year, and that has been interesting. Like when I was a kid and I went to school, like the buses don't work the same way as they did back then. So like I always forget how to actually go on a bus, how to pay for the bus, because they do cashless, right? Like things like that. I get a what's it called, reverse culture shock basically every time I go back. And just this thing of like speaking Swedish to people I don't know. Like, what the hell? Like, no. I had this one experience when I was going to order a pizza, was it? I ordered a pizza in Sweden, and the guy asked me something in Swedish, and I did not understand. I think he asked, or maybe it was a kebab. Like, anyway, I think he asked what kind of sauce or something I wanted, and I did not pick it up. Like, and I was just like, what? Excuse me? In English. To be like, hey, I don't understand. Please speak English to me. And that was weird and embarrassing. But I don't know. Maybe that is a common thing too that happens for like people who live abroad and don't actually speak in their native language that much. Like, I have coworkers. Some of them speak Swedish. And I have a close friend who speaks Swedish. But in general at work, I speak English, right? So, and with my friend, she speaks English and Japanese as well. So I don't really have to exercise my Swedish muscle that much. Sometimes I do. But it's in general, I know I can just run to English or Japanese if I have to. And that's normal. But then you go to this random restaurant, like the supermarket or whatever in Sweden, and you're just like, you know? Yeah. Scary. And yeah, I think that's more of a me thing rather than a foreigner in Japan thing, but it is funny. At least I have stories for drinking, right? Yeah. yeah, I think that's about wraps it up. It's 20 minutes. Man, talking a lot. I did get some more ideas from my coworker, and I think I'm gonna ask some of my friends as well, like my Japanese friends, be like, what is something you think only Japan has? You know, it would be interesting to hear their answers, but also to kind of talk about that and stuff as well. Like I get this question sometimes, like, oh, do you cook? Like, yeah, I cook. Do you cook rice? I'm like, yeah, of course I cook rice. I live in Japan. Of course I cook rice. I have a rice cooker. I live here. What do you think? And again, I don't know what most of them think, really. I can't really do, washoku, like the Japanese traditional food. I can do some of it, but in general, I just do a mix of like whatever, and like, I do what I want, right? I do what I've learned, and I try what looks good, and I try to look it up how to do it, and But now that it's hot, I don't like cooking because it's too hot, and being by the stove is just ugh. Anyway, again, thanks for listening. If you have comments, please leave them, and I will see you in the next one. Have a good day. Drink water. If you're in a hot place, especially drink water and stay hydrated. Don't melt away. Bye.